Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Zach the Slash here. We're going to be going over the top decks from the Late Night Season 3 Invitational. This event was held for those who qualified for the Late Night Season 3 Invitational from the entirety of Late Night Season 3. That means that you had to get a decent bit of placements in order to make the top 64 players, or do make the finals at some kind of late night event that I was running, just kind of to grow the community. We're going to be jumping through and just kind of making it very quick because I just really want to celebrate the players who did it. We've already seen the grand finals, and the entire top 8 was filmed on my Twitch or on my YouTube, so you should totally check that out. We're going to be starting off with Josh Cohen playing Gengar VMAX. Gengar VMAX is all about using Fear and Panic against V Pokemon, V Star Pokemon, and VMAX Pokemon. And it can add up, especially with these Arceus V and Mutex in the format. Even E-Turn has a lot of V Pokemon in play. You got Gmax Swallow Up that works out incredibly well with Single Strike Energy and Choice Belt to do a lot of damage, and damage modifiers are really where Gengar shines. It can get those OHKOs out of nowhere. We have Single Strike Roar that you can use to accelerate the energies to those, and the Bibarel is like, it's an interesting tech to try to make this deck a little bit more consistent. I'm not entirely sure. In my testing, it hasn't particularly worked out. I just kind of like a straight up Gengar VMAX deck, but it's okay. Stonjourner is more of a tech against fighting weak Pokemon. Again, in my testing, I found that the Stonjourner isn't really working as well as I'd like. I like the Single Strike Urshifu V more because it has more HP, but against single prize card decks, it does give you outs, so that's kind of cool. And this deck also plays Path to the Peak to kind of hurt Mew and other decks that can do pretty well against it. So overall, great list, really interesting list. Let's see exactly how their day played out. As you can see, they hit quite a few Mew. They somehow beat a Rapid Strike, I'm not sure. Both of these decks feature a lot of V, and I'm sure they probably just had something not go their way when it came down to Arceus and Intelion. So great job to Josh Cohen. We're going to be moving on to NRG Eli G, and they are playing Mew VMAX. You can see PTCGO loaded up, or Limitless loaded up. There, that's what we got going on for the list. Gotta love technology, right? Mew VMAX is all about using Cross Fusion Strike, copying things like Technoblast and Melodious Echo, while drawing cards with Fusion Strike system. This deck has Ellis's Sparkles to accelerate Fusion Strike energies, and you have a lot of ways to search out things and thin your hand down and all that cool stuff. Notably about this list, there's only 2 copies of Boss's Orders, but 3 copies of Catcher. I'm sure the idea is that it's good in the mirror match. That could be kind of cool. We'll have to see if it played out well for them or not. Also notable is that Natalie Miller just won Brisbane Regional Championships heading into this event. They played 3 copies of Double Turbo, no basic Psychics. This deck played 2 copies of Double Turbo, 1 copy of Psychic. So we'll have to see if that worked out or how it worked out in Mirror, but we're going to jump in and see exactly what's going on with their day. Looks like they did beat 3 Mews, so it looks like the catchers might have done well. Then they were able to tie a Gengar, tie into cut, and then they ended up losing to Caleb Rogerson, which I do believe played the triple Double Turbo energy. So shout out to Eli. We're going to be moving on to Jace Patrick playing Arceus Toolbox. Arceus Toolbox is all about using Arceus to Trinity, either Charge or Trinity Nova, accelerating energies onto various Pokemon and choosing the correct ones for the right matchups. Starbirth, searching things out when you need to. And I mean, the Moltres is going to be good against Mew. The Moltres is going to be good against Mew. Hoop is good against Mew, and it's good against decks like Rapid Strike because he can turn itself Psychic type. This can discard some special energies. We got Zapdos for against Arceus decks, or against Jolteon, Gengar, E-Turn. I'd like to almost see a second one there, but I get it. And then some support and Pumpkaboo's there to discard Path to the Peak. You can see that there's a bunch of tech cards, so this deck is really one where you could choose your own path. I found in my testing that this deck has been a little bit inconsistent, but what am I to know? It's one of those things where it's not my personal choice. I also wasn't the one who was top 8 in the tournament. Let's see how their run ended up going. They were able to beat a Zoroark deck. I'm assuming that the Zoroark deck didn't perform because Zoroark decks haven't typically been performing. They were able to beat an Arceus Intelion. Usually it's the other way around. I'm not entirely sure. They did lose a game, 2 games against Mew. So it is something where I do think Mew does have a favorable matchup against this deck. Even though you have all those dark Pokemon, you can't get them out as soon as you'd like. So it is something that I would consider, but great job to Jace. Really great season overall. Got NRG, LA Liverpool, going to be playing Mew VMAX. I believe they played the exact same list as what Eli played, so you can see the exact same list. So we're not necessarily going to go over that again, but we can see how their day played out. You can see that they ended up losing to their teammates, and they were able to beat another Mew, although they did lose to Jolteon. So their deck might have proved to be a little bit inconsistent against those matchups. However, they did have a 5-2 record finish, and they did lose against a Mew Mirror. So anything could really happen, especially with Path to the Peak. And Gabe Shumway is a great player, so shout out to the whole NRG team for always playing in the events and supporting. We're going to be moving on to our top 4. We got Gabe Shumway, one of my really good friends. They're playing Jolteon VMAX. Jolteon VMAX just popping off after winning the Metafy Regional Championships. The deck's all about using Max Thunder Rumble on the active, Max Thunder Rumble on the bench, and just 100. You can get the damage on the bench with Headbutt Tantrum or quick shooting to trigger things. And you also got access to Path to the Peak to shut down things like Mew and Genesect. So that's probably why they shut down the Genesect deck and they play double Cheryl. I mean, overall, pretty cool list, if not the list that won the regionals. We've covered Jolteon a whole bunch before because Jolteon was the number 2 deck since Fusion Strike. If you haven't got a chance, check that out. I think I literally, I just recorded a Jolteon deck on my channel, so check that out. I'm looking at my whiteboard to see when it's going up. I just finished recording. Check it out. We're going to see how their matches went. They ended up beating Mew, Single Strike, Mew. They had a really good record against Mew, so maybe the Path to the Peaks were really good, or maybe these players weren't necessarily playing many Path to the Peaks. Could be that they were playing Natalie's list. Natalie only played 2 stadiums in their list, which could be very difficult to deal with. So something to consider there, but great job to Gabe. We're going to be moving into Pedro Vicencio. I'm really bad at Vicencio. I'm really the worst at pronouncing names. I'm sorry. I probably just pronounced it horribly. I'm playing Arceus Intelion. So the goal of this deck, like any other Arceus deck, is to power up energies. This one's powering up energies to itself and attacking with Trinity Nova, playing Big Charm to give it VMAX like HP on a V-Star Pokemon. So instead of being worth 3 prizes, you're worth 2 prizes, and you can kind of really throw your opponent in a loop if they can't knock you out. You can use Charon's Care. I do like the tech of the Cry of Destruction, Yveltal. I think that's really cool to get around here. I do not like the 1 capture energy. I mean, you can search it out with Starbirth, but maybe it would be better to search out something else. The techs are kind of cool if you're playing Clara. I'd almost like to see this deck play Galarian Moltres. So personally, it's different, very different than what I've seen for other Arceus Intelion lists. But they did well enough at the Invitational, and there's a lot of changes that I'd make, but great job to them. And I mean, their list is certainly interesting. Let's see what they ended up beating. They were able to beat Donphan Moltres, Grant Manley playing something experimental. Lost to Jolteon. I think that's a pretty bad matchup to Jolteon. This deck typically beats single prize card decks, and maybe they just did Path to the Peak against all these Mew decks. Typically, I find this deck doesn't beat Mew, but if you just get Path to the Peak out, it could be huge. Ended up losing to Mew. Augusto probably knows what they're doing in that matchup. I can totally see how it works out. So shout out to Pedro for always crushing it. We are going to be moving into Augusto. Augusto arguably had the best late night season run this entire season. I believe they won 2 late nights, came second at another, and came second at the Invitational here. And I'm sure they had to place at quite a few others. Playing more of a traditional Mew list with 2 Psychic Energies, 1 Double Turbo. I mean, personally, I like the Double Turbo Energy list, and I think this is just their standard list that they always play, just with the Peony. So a lot of really interesting text. It seems like it's a list that's well defined by the player. Sometimes it's not the list, sometimes it's how you play, or it's just your knowledge of what's available in that deck. Augusto's matchups ended up going 4-0, beating an Arceus deck. Duraludon, so the extra Psychic Energies were probably great there. They somehow beat Gengar. I'm not entirely sure, but I know that Jay Shurhan typically plays a different Gengar list. Beat Jolteon. I do find Jolteon favorable. I do find the Arceus Toolbox favorable. Tai, and then they beat Arceus Toolbox again, Arceus Intelion, and then lost to Mew in the finals. And it was a close mirror match, but we do have Caleb Rogerson winning the whole thing. So we're going to look at their list overall. So they're playing a very different list, the one that plays the 3 double turbos. And this was I kind of getting into. Natalie's list does seem designed to beat the mirror match, and having 4 stadiums probably really helped out against all the decks that play Path to the Peak. I do think that this is a very, very, very well constructed list from Caleb. I'm not entirely sure if I like the 3-3 Mew. I like 4-3 Mew. Personally, but it's also hard to find space in this deck right now. I know a lot of people are considering cutting Echoing Horn. I know that I've personally cut a switch out of my list. There's a lot of things that you can do. Like I said, Mew lists are kind of personal, and it doesn't necessarily matter if you change 1 or 2 cards, you could still go Melodious Echo and all that good stuff. I do want to run through their run, if that makes any kind of sense. So they lost to a Mew Mirror match, and then were able to beat a Malamar deck, an Arceus Intelion. I do think that the Rapid Strike is a favorable matchup. Beat another couple Mew, but they ended up going 4-1 against Mew overall. And I think that shows a lot about the double turbo energy. So if you are playing the double turbo energy builds or considering it, it probably does well against Mew Mirror. Also, catchers do seem like they're going to be doing well against Mew Mirror as well. So that's what we've got going on for the Late Night Invitational. Major shout out to Caleb and everyone else who played in this season. The grand finals is up on YouTube already, along with the top cut stream as well on YouTube. So you can always check those out to see exactly what's going on there. We do have Late Night Season 4 coming up this upcoming Monday, so check that out. It now starts at 6 p.m. Eastern, so check that out. If it's, especially in your time zone, it's on the limit list. The whole season's up there already. And the only other changes is that Phase 2 will now be consisted of, you need to make 19 match points. So basically 5-0-4, so 5 wins, 4 ties, or 6 wins, 2 losses, 1 tie or better to make Phase 2. And then you also have, it's going to be a top 8 cut. So very much, it's mimicking an official Pokemon Regionals, except it's best of 1 instead of best of 3 due to time constraints only. That being said, I hope to see you all out there, and stay tuned. If you are playing these events, you might find yourself featured in these videos today. Again, major congrats to everyone. Stay tuned for everything, and check out the description if you're looking for anything else regarding coaching or content or my social media. I'll catch up with all you later. Peace out and have a great one.